What's going on, everyone? So, the Black Phone 2 is having its success, and we know that Black Phone 3 has been greenlit. Now, without spoiling the Black Phone 2, it doesn't end in a way that would set up a third film, right? I mean, each one of these films have basically been conclusive. This is the sequel that was unnecessary, that we didn't really need. But I see people generally seem to enjoy it for what it is. I think it's an enjoyable film. I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever, but I don't think it's terrible. It is very much a modern nightmare, which I've talked about, made a video on. Hopefully, at some point, we can kind of get an adaptation of Nightmare on Elm Street, like a modern nightmare. But, they're trying to make the grabber a thing. Right now, we don't know what Black Phone 3 will be yet. There's a lot of options, right? It could be a continued story. Now that they've, it's a supernatural kind of paranormal style thing, right? So, I mean, you could go a million different directions and possibilities. I mean, look at like how many times Freddy's lore has been changed and adapted, and Jason and all these other things, right? So, you're not beholden to, say it's a Michael Myers. And like, even though, yes, there's kind of this like supernatural verse, is he really human type elements, right? Like, if you just blow him up, right? Like, that's it. You got to retcon the franchise, right? You got to start all over, start from fresh. But, if you were to, with the grabber, and like, again, he's already dead. He comes back in a multitude of ways. There's all kinds of things that you can do and play into that. But one thing I'd love to see, and especially because, again, you're seeing the heads above trying to create the grabber as this icon, this horror icon, right? Like, that they want the grabber to be up there with the Freddys, the Jasons, the Michaels, the Ghost Faces, right? Like, all of those things. And some people I've seen say, like, yes, I do think that the grabber absolutely can be. I've seen some people say, that they can't. I don't really know if it'll be like an iconic. I just feel like, kind of feels to me like the grabber is one of those things that, like, because it's relevant in the moment, he's relevant. Give it 5 years without doing a movie. Like, how many people are going to be like, oh, you know what? We need another grabber film, right? But that doesn't mean you can't get it to that point at some point. Personally, I think if you're going to do a third film, I think it should be a prequel film. I think because again, you have the two films that kind of got you to the direction that you wanted to go. I think the third film and the third installment should be the prequel to the grabber itself. You want to make the grabber a icon. You want to make the grabber, someone that, like, all of these characters have backstories, right? Freddy, Jason, all, like, they have Michael, they have backstories, and dive into that backstory. So I think if you're going to do a third film, I think you do it in such a way to where you explain, like, how did the grabber become the grabber? No, like, how was he as a child? How was, like, and I mean, you could even make it a series if you wanted to, but we know that there's a third installment film. So I think either two things. I think either A, you make the third film a prequel, or if they have plans to continue it as like a third film in the continued story, then I think you should do a series. Do like a Camp Crystal Lake type thing, where you basically get to go into the life and create this world for the grabber that ultimately led him down this path to become the character and the monster that he is, the entity that he is. Right? I think that is something that, is the best way to approach it, in the sense of kind of having, tying everything together, having everything be, because like I said, you look at both films, it's like they're essentially conclude, like they're in a bow, boom, right? There's not the setup for a third film. Now, again, that doesn't mean that they can't create that. Good writing, good storytelling, good execution, good delivery, all of that can absolutely create that. But it'd be nice to see, who is the grabber's first fit. Like, you think of the first Black Phone, all those kids, all those stories. Like, you could do a series where each episode is one of those victims. Right? Like, you could do something where, and through the mix of it, you're getting told the story. So, like, you could have a really action-packed series or film or something like that, to where I think a series would be awesome because you can just do so much more. Like I said, each episode could be kind of a new victim, and and then have the story of the grabber kind of be intertwined in that storytelling, right? So, again, you have kind of, here's victim A, here's victim B, here's victim C each episode, but each story kind of gives you a little bit of pieces to the grabber, right? And maybe the grabber's telling the overarching story to somebody, right? Like whatever, right? There's ways to kind of tie it in, and then you could tie it into the movies, right? Like, and just have this kind of full circle thing. I just think it'd be cool to kind of, dive further into the lore and mythos that is the grabber. Dive into the stories and what created this monster that you see. I'm okay with there being certain elements, certain things that are kind of left to the imagination. You don't want to, it's always a fine line, right? Because you never want to over explain, right? As soon as you start over explaining things, then you kind of lose the mystery. But also with the grabber in particular, right? Like, so, for example, right? Like things like the strangers, using that as example. Like, it's terrifying. Like, why are they doing this? Because you were home, right? It's just psychotic. It's just crazy. But with the black phone and the grabber and stuff like that, and, talking about using the phone and stuff like that, right? Like, for those that seen the movie, right? They're trying to clearly build this story of the grabber as a character. They're trying to build this universe and franchise, right? So I do think the backstory development and history is important. Right? It's just like Michael. Once you start to try to do all these crazy like reasonings and rhyme, oh, now it's because of this and he was this, like it just it starts losing its mystery. Right? Like certain characters, if you explain too much, completely ruin said character. Right? But all of those characters still have a story. Michael with, on Halloween taking out his sister and all that stuff. Like Jason, thinking that he was left for dead, drowned, but really survived to watch his mother die, right? Like, like you have these elements, right? Even in, like, you watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street, you got little details. Family of the town ends up, burning the house down with him in it, right? Like, you create and tell the story of the grabber, but, leave things to the imagination, right? You don't need to over explain. You don't need to give every little nuance, every little detail on the grab. Like, keep it to where, you're telling this story and you're giving the audience just enough to kind of like explain, like, how did he go from, kid himself to becoming this monster, right? Like, and look, that there's no really wrong. Like, it could be something as simple as like he's just crazy or he was corrupted or whatever, right? Like, there was somebody before him, whatever. He's in the line. Like, you could go so many different ways with that. But if you can create and tell this creative, compelling story, I think that that's a great approach, particularly for a third film and a third installment, or like I said, a series. Just, I'm a big fan of series for horror franchises in particular, just because it gives you the opportunity to really flush out and get out, exactly what you need, and be able to develop characters and tell stories without, having to rush it and pack everything into, an hour and 45 minutes or whatever. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? I feel what your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you think, like, yes, you got to go with third installment, and have it be the backstory, it be the history of the grabber? Do you think, no, like, don't need that, keep continuing the story? Do you even want another film? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, either way, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. We enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Now, subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.